wasn't brilliant.
Now, from cars to climate change, it seems just about everything is advertised on TV these days. Some ads, though, are remembered for all the wrong reasons. That is where the Advertising Standards Authority comes in. It's been looking into our complaints for 50 years now and has dealt with 400,000 in that time. Let's go to New York and we can speak to international marketer Alison Stewart-Allen. Just looking at some of these ads, they are pretty awful, aren't they, some of them? But isn't that part of the design to actually sort of shock people into watching and getting people to talk about them? So isn't all publicity good publicity?
Well, you could say that. Look at us. We're talking about it right now. We're not naming names yet. We probably will in the course of this interview. But part of the strategy for some brands, and I have to say this is probably a minority of brands that actually want to be so outrageous and so memorable for the wrong reasons that you get people talking about them. And if you get people talking about them, that brand infers that therefore you'll be interested in buying them or you'll remember them, and memory and purchasing behavior they claim are highly correlated.
Yeah, and the ASA is interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, there are certain guidelines presumably about bad language and things like that, but a lot of these ads were just plainly irritating. I'm thinking about the one with the mouthful, and I suppose if you're into cats, they didn't really like the Paddy Power one where the cat was used as a football with a blind football team.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you have the RSPCA that cares deeply about showing animals in potentially painful situations. But we empathize with animals and we empathize with children who are shown perhaps in vulnerable situations, and we don't think ethically that's necessarily the right way to promote a product or a service. So, you know, the boundaries of good taste and ethics sometimes are crossed, and maybe the advertiser takes a view that this is the best way to get the point across. I'm not sure that that's really necessarily good for their brand, however.
No, well, we're just seeing the cat football one, actually, which made me chuckle, and Joanna as well. But does it affect sales, though?
It affects sales when it's so offensive and so outrageous, and the effect is a negative effect. What's harder to prove is a positive effect. So we do know that advertising raises awareness. We do know that it has some impact on sales. The problem, to some degree, is we can't immediately correlate advertisements with sales uplifts.
Okay,
but we can correlate bad advertising with sales drops. That we can do.
Okay, and if there's some sort of disastrous campaign, do you then start sort of suing the company, or the company sues you for loss of reputation?
Well, basically what happens is ideally the advertising agency, because normally it's an advertising agency that creates the advertisement and places them in the media. If the company who commissioned the advertising agency has signed off and approved the ad campaign, well, you know, there's not a whole lot of recourse, really, that that brand owner has to go back to the agency and said, actually, we've changed our minds. We don't really like what you've done. It's too late. You've already approved it.
What's your favourite worst ad?
Boy, there's a few. I think there was one that I found deeply offensive for Ryanair. It ran about 3 or 4 years ago, of a very young schoolgirl in a very skimpy school uniform, a crop top that was quite revealing, a super mini skirt, you know, short knee socks, and it was called the Back to School Fares promotion. And I think using children in a suggestive way to sell airline seats doesn't really necessarily, doesn't make sense logically to the consumer.
Okay. Alison Stewart-Allen, thanks very much indeed for talking to us there from New York.
It's interesting. Now at 28 minutes past 8.